Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day one of Spring One's Agile Leadership Breakout Track. Next up, we have First Lieutenant Oscar Chacon of Space Force and Jackie Ho from VMware discussing how the DoD, the Department of Defense, saved $800 million, which is a lot of money to me. Oscar and Jackie, over to you.
Thank you. So, Space Force, what did you think about when I just said that? Did you think about something like this? And you may think that our applications look a little something like this. What if I were to actually tell you it looks something more like this? Now, while this still looks pretty cool, and I've actually visited this center, I can almost guarantee that every space operator there at their desk is working on Microsoft products that weren't used or developed to manage this complex space assets that they're managing in their day-to-day workflow. Or they may be using software built in the 1990s, and we're in 2021 today. My name's Oscar Chacon. As mentioned, I'm a first lieutenant in the United States Space Force, and I'm so excited to be here today to share my experience as both a portfolio manager and product lead of the Space Force's first organic software factory. A little bit about myself. I started my career here at Los Angeles Air Force Base about 3 years ago as an acquisitions manager, where I managed contracts for the DoD in support of delivering space capabilities and effects to the space community. Now, in this role, I saw firsthand how bureaucratic, outdated, and inefficient some of our processes were in trying to achieve our goals. One of the examples I had witnessed was the development of the Joint Space Operations Center Mission System, or JMS. This was an estimated $800 million effort to build a monolithic operations software suite for the Joint Space Operations Center. Now, the JMS system was huge, and it was supposed to do everything, which meant that it took years to plan, years to actually contract, and years to develop. And as you may have guessed, many years had passed before any real capabilities were delivered to the operators. And after all the time, JMS was deemed as not operationally effective or suitable for its space situational awareness mission. After just one increment of being delivered, the program was ultimately canceled. Months later, I joined Kobayashi Maru's Section 31. Section 31 is an organic software factory within the Space Force where government-led development teams means that Space Guardians are building software for Space Guardians. Now, before I continue, I'd like to introduce you to our team and who we support and what our mission is about. So our team is a part of this software development factory called Section 31, a team that falls under the larger organization called Kobayashi Maru here at Los Angeles Air Force Base. Kobayashi Maru's mission is to modernize the United States Air Force as well as the Space Force with new agile software solutions for the warfighters of both today and the future. The Section 31 application teams develop cloud-native greenfield apps that deliver capabilities in support of the Space Tasking Cycle, which is a cycle at the Combined Space Operations Center, or CSPOC, out of Vandenberg Air Force Base here in California. The Space Tasking Cycle covers many things, some of which include strategy, planning, tasking, and support functions for missions that track our various space assets. Now, when I joined Section 31 about 2 years ago, we were fast. Our first application was developed and deployed to production and operationally accepted in 6 months, which is unheard of. In my previous job, it took me at least 7 months to even get a contract in place to even start development, and even then, that was considered fast. The following 2 years, Kobayashi Maru's Section 31 was able to deliver 5 applications into operational acceptance, providing space capabilities to over 2,000 users across the world. Our teams received countless positive user feedback on how we had improved their lives and how our applications are better than any DoD software they had ever used. Now, a big part of why we hear these comments is because of our relationship with the users. Our users are space operators who are managing US space assets through various daily workflows, some complex, some not so complex. Here you can actually see us working shoulder to shoulder with the space operator, identifying problems in their daily workflows and testing out new solutions that they can use in the future. This facet is one of the many practices we do that separates us from traditional DoD software acquisitions. We actually visit the CSPOC operators. We see the environment they work in. We try to understand their pain points. And then by doing so, we work through solutions together with them. Whereas traditional DoD acquisitions involves operators giving a contractor a list of requirements and hoping that they understand what they need and that it'll all be delivered in a timely manner. In addition to that, our in-house platform and platform team have enabled us to release weekly as opposed to yearly like other software programs. We've been in the news alongside other successful DoD software factories such as Air Force's Kessel Run. Now, this agile approach to delivering software is something new to the DoD, and we're leading the way and the charge for organic software development for space. Yet, despite all our success and the countless articles we're in, we still receive some criticism. We hear things such as, you're only successful because you're replacing easy user workflows. Your apps are simple, and you aren't doing any integrations and automation. Or Section 31 is just focused on individual user value. We have higher priorities with greater mission impact that need to be worked on. Well, we're building a complex system of applications, so of course it's going to be harder and take longer. You're just building cute apps. Hearing these things, we needed to prove to the skeptics that we could actually build systems and solve these more complex problems, but do it our own way. So what we decided to do was create Section 31's first portfolio and portfolio team. Our goal as a portfolio team, in addition to continuing to deliver great software, was to also demonstrate that we, this organic software factory, can build a system that solves bigger problems end to end. Now, in addition to those comments that we heard, we too as an organization realized that we were at a scale where we started to see some challenges ourselves. We had scaled from 1 team to 5 teams without any real leadership changes. At that time, we had one already overworked captain overseeing 5 teams. Additionally, teams were individually focused on their user problems, which isn't a bad thing, but what that meant is that they lacked an understanding of how their app fit into this broader mission. Now, here's a diagram kind of showing our portfolio and where the product teams lie. Our portfolio consists of 5 teams, all working to solve problems in the same domain, the space tasking cycle, which you see on the right. As mentioned, the space tasking cycle is a way that the CSPOC commands and controls space assets in support of global operations. A simple example of what this might look like is the CSPOC planning and tasking space units to support a space launch.
So what did our portfolio actually look like? How did it all work? Before I get into some of our portfolio practices and tactics, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Jackie Ho, and I'm coming to y'all today from Brooklyn, New York. And fun fact, I actually just moved apartments yesterday. And of course, we have no Wi-Fi, so I'm at my friend's apartment. A bit more about myself. I'm a product designer at VMware Tanzu Labs, although these days I hardly do much actual design. Over the last several years, I've been helping client organizations, primarily Department of Defense, with agile transformation and coaching these leaders of software organizations on how to support and scale their software development capabilities. Org structures and product leadership strategies fascinate me. And over the last year, I've had an absolute blast working with Oscar to stand up Kobayashi Maru's first portfolio. So let's talk about what we did. The first thing we did was establish a portfolio team. There are 2 key facets of our team makeup that are important for our success. 1, our team was a balanced team. You may have heard of this balanced team concept before, where you're bringing different disciplines such as product management, product design, and engineering onto the team to collectively own the product and its goals. You're bringing together the practices of lean product management, user-centered design, and extreme programming onto one team, and you're cutting out all the handoffs and misalignment. For our balanced team, we had 2 portfolio PMs, including Oscar, 1 portfolio designer, myself, and a portfolio architect/engineer. Having that cross-discipline team means that we can make decisions effectively and efficiently, as we can bring each perspective to the table, be it mission value, user experience, user value, and also technical complexity and scalability. We really wanted to replicate the balanced team model that we had on each software development team, also at the portfolio leadership level. It also means that as a portfolio team, we can also build our own software when we need to. In our year of existence, we've actually developed 3 different portfolio solutions that are now being used by our teams. And we've also been able to build and test out various proof of concepts. The other aspect of our team we feel really helped our success was that we're all fully dedicated to our roles. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that obvious, Jackie? but in my experience, good portfolio and product leadership is often an afterthought in a leadership structure. And leaders are often stretched thin across many different types of responsibilities. You might have the same leader responsible for hiring, also setting product priorities. Here's an example of how our different leadership functions were organized. We had our directors at the top responsible for budgets, team allocations, just general external stakeholder management. Our team, the portfolio team, is focused exclusively on delivering product outcomes. And lastly, we have a different kind of leadership called practice leadership, who acts as pseudo managers, focusing on practice health, hiring, people growth, and manage things like onboarding. This clear separation of concern between different types of leaders means that as a portfolio, we can make better decisions and focus on our individual leadership function. Ultimately, as leaders, it means that we have slack in our calendars and we can respond quickly if we need to set aside time for planning or if we need to rally around an urgent product issue. Ultimately, we found that good portfolio and product strategy takes a lot of time and focus.
Now, what we lacked in the organization before having this balanced portfolio team that Jackie just mentioned was a unified vision of what we wanted to achieve in the future as a system of applications and a strategy on how to get there, or what we like to call a portfolio product strategy. Now, what do we mean by portfolio product strategy? Well, what we define as a strategy is deciding which problems we should work on and which product team should work on them. These decisions are ultimately owned by the portfolio team, but we do take many inputs from product teams as well as higher level leadership. Defining that portfolio product strategy is a key responsibility of a portfolio leadership team. While teams are looking 9 to 12 months out and are thinking about the vision of their product as they should, we are thinking about a 1 to 2 year vision for an entire suite of products. For example, what this might look like is a product team focusing on improving an individual user's life with certain software features. However, the portfolio team is focused on how does that new capability impact the larger organization's ability to operate during times of major theater war. Now, there are a lot of inputs, as I mentioned, that go into this strategy. They range from research that we do as a portfolio team to research that is done by a product team, where teams will either share those learnings with us or we may even attend those interviews ourselves. We also meet with our key stakeholders. And the reason for that is we like to get their inputs, where we specifically ask questions such as, what are your thoughts on the priorities of the work that we're currently doing across our 5 teams? We also get an organizational perspective from teams outside the portfolio, making sure that we are aligning on that larger organizational strategy at the Kobayashi-Maru level. Lastly, a big input is answering the questions, what are teams currently working on, and what is the priority of that objective that we have given them? Answering these questions helps us better understand which team can actually take on this new problem domain and see the value that we're either gaining by taking on this new effort or the value that we might be losing by bringing this into our portfolio. As for our outputs as a team, we invest a lot of time into articulating and clarifying our product strategy. And we do this using a variety of different outputs, as you see on the right. These can be used to communicate our priorities or drive clear conversations with teams, but it can also be used to brief stakeholders at a moment's notice. So let's dive deeper into one of our outputs, one that a lot of you have probably encountered or tried at one point in your life, OKRs. OKRs, or Objective and Key Results, is a widely used goal-setting framework. This helps you set challenging, ambitious goals with measurable results. The objectives are telling you where you want to go, and the key results are saying, how do I know if I'm actually getting there? We use OKRs as a way to prioritize a lot of the work that we do as a portfolio. We also use it to track progress, create alignment, and overall encourage engagement around measurable goals with product teams. As a portfolio team, we spend a lot of time deciding what those top 2 to 3 objectives and key results we want the portfolio to focus on for the next 6 months. This involves many conversations with stakeholders, product teams, and the rest of the leadership portfolio team before actually going to the product teams with those final level OKRs. Once those have been defined, we go to the product team level, whose OKRs are time blocked to 3 months, which you see at the bottom level there. Now, it's important to highlight that what you're looking at here, this framework, this setup, we didn't get right and correct right off the bat. And I want to call out that this OKR framework is one that can be adjusted to fit your industry or your specific goals. The reason that our portfolio OKRs are 6 months long versus the product level 3-month timeframe is because we realized after a few iterations of doing OKRs that it actually takes longer to achieve these portfolio level objectives since it's a multi-team effort across an entire slew of portfolio. We also learned that it was easy to fall victim to looking at OKRs at the beginning of the quarter and then again at the end, but never in between. So what we did to fix that is we now discuss OKRs at our bi-weekly team check-ins, which helps keep OKRs in the front of the team's minds, as well as our portfolio minds, and overall forcing us to keep them updated. OKRs are also a great tool to share with stakeholders. A lot of our stakeholders, specifically in the DoD, are used to receiving a roadmap with notional dates, green check marks, stars, as a way to show product progress. OKRs allows them to see the tangible objective that they're going to be receiving and the impact the software will actually have on their mission and to their operators. Overall, defining and aligning on OKRs at both the portfolio and product levels increases the team's and stakeholders' understanding of the overall portfolio product strategy.
So once we've defined the problems we want to solve and aligned on which team should work on which problem, we then empower our teams to own their own roadmaps and products. Rather than finding features or solutions for our teams to build, teams actually do their own research to add additional clarity to the objectives that we've given them. And we're confident that because now they're closer to the problems, that they have the information needed to make the best decision on solutions and features. That really is our key to our ability to move quickly, that as a whole organization, we can make decisions quickly. I do also want to point out that we're clear to set expectations that a team's product priorities and roadmaps should be aligned to the portfolio product strategy. Some orgs, when introducing a portfolio, try to take a percentage approach to portfolio alignment, as in having teams budget 25% of their time towards portfolio level outcomes. In our case, we aim for 100% alignment. And rather than approaching roadmap alignment conversations as negotiations, we actually have teams and portfolio leaders share context, research, and trade-offs on different paths, and we make decisions together. As leaders, we could tell teams what to do, but we don't.
Now, we spent the last 15 minutes talking about this agile approach and software delivery that we're practicing here. To some of those who aren't familiar with Agile, this might be a lot, right? Which is why we understand that in order for someone to understand and advocate for this new delivery of delivering software, it takes time and an open mind, which is why we believe that stakeholder management is a key tactic to the success of a portfolio and the success of our organization. In the DoD, stakeholders ultimately decide if they like the products they're receiving and if they're delivered in a timely manner. If the answer to both those questions are no, then you as a program office can ultimately lose funding for your product. Knowing this, we wanted to make sure that our key stakeholders understood our approach. So we spent a lot of time teaching them about Agile delivery, sharing with them our long-term plans for the system, and moving away from the mindset of requirements and dates. Now, the key tool used here was transparency. Our key stakeholder knew our resource constraints when we had them. We shared our blockers with him so that he can aid us in unblocking those. And all that ultimately led him to understanding, as he puts it, I can't have everything I want right now. Now, hearing those words out of the mouth of an operational stakeholder is not common in the DoD. It's usually more along the lines of, I want it all, I wanted it yesterday, why isn't it done? And because we actually deliver real capabilities to users in production, and have demonstrated our ability to turn around features and releases in weeks rather than months, our stakeholders can see that how we're doing software differently actually works and can then trust us when we say that we're building a system incrementally rather than a set of siloed applications.
In addition to being our advocates, our stakeholders are also key in helping us understand mission value. In our world, many of our stakeholders are actually the leaders of our hands-on keyboard users. If you recall from some of those critical quotes, a common criticism that we had received before we introduced our portfolio was that we're too focused on individual user value rather than the larger value stream. Improving individual users' lives and workflows is valuable, but what about the larger impact? To understand that, we needed to understand mission value. Now, in most companies in the commercial space, we talk about finding the intersection between user value and business value. Business value, often simply defined as the company's bottom line. How much money is this making us? For a company to stay alive, we need that tension between user value and business value. But what about us? Making money isn't our bottom line in the DoD. In our world, we instead have mission value. We think about mission value as combat readiness. Will this help us respond or win in a time of war? How will this help the CSPOC's overall mission to command and control space assets and effects to meet certain objectives? While time savings and individual user efficiencies can certainly have a positive effect on the mission, working with our stakeholders to better understand mission value, the why, and the larger impact helps us to better prioritize and know when to move on to new users or new opportunities. Now, the last bucket of portfolio tactics that we've developed is all about working closely with our teams. This can range from the more obvious, like holding fortnightly check-ins and supporting with risks and blockers, to the less obvious, like setting aside time to pair on engineering challenges or to collaborate on user research. Working this closely shortens our feedback loops and cuts out the need for a ton of status update type meetings that you see in a lot of orgs. We're also able to provide more informed recommendations to help teams move forward. We can connect teams that are working on similar challenges, and we can also represent them well in meetings that they're not present at. Now, I want to address the question of how we manage cross-team dependencies. We get asked this question a lot. Honestly, we don't really do anything special to manage these dependencies. No safe, scaled agile framework or fancy string boards. We do actually keep a system roadmap that tracks outcomes across teams, but it's mostly used for briefing stakeholders or giving us an estimate of timelines for our milestones rather than to actually manage teams and deadlines. Really, I think our special sauce here is how we as a portfolio team work so closely with our teams. And we connect teams that have overlapping problem spaces, personas, and integration points. And then we get out of the way. One of our principles is that we don't want to be the middleman between teams or act as a broker of information. We really want our teams to collaborate with one another directly, and we get looped in as needed. Another thing we do is that we have our teams build APIs using a standard we've established called the 4 tenets of self-service integration. This means that teams will be able to self-service integrations for their products, and we cut out the need for those extensive conversations between teams when they do need to integrate. Overall, all our practices and tactics around collaborating this closely builds empathy and trust both ways and helps us stay aligned as a portfolio. So we've covered a lot of different practices and tactics. So where are we today? Our teams continue to make great progress towards our portfolio milestones, developing APIs, and we're on track to deliver our integrated system in 2022 with at least 4 integrated apps.
We also continue to maintain a great working relationship with our stakeholders, and both users and others in the acquisition community are starting to see the difference in our ability to deliver. Due to the success of our portfolio model was actually adopted by the rest of our organization. Rather than having one portfolio, we now have 6 portfolios, each aligned to a specific domain. So to sum it all up, our portfolio delivery model has allowed us to meet the bigger integrated mission system that the DoD is used to getting, while also delivering incremental capabilities to operators along the way. With portfolio management, we're proving to the Agile skeptics that even the most bureaucratic organization in the government can deliver massive mission impact, and we're excited to see others do the same. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for listening. If you're interested in learning more about the Kobayashi Maru organization, we do actually have 2 other talks, one today, one tomorrow, one from our platform team and one from our infrastructure team. Thank you for your time and have a great Space Force Day.
Thank you, First Lieutenant Oscar Chacon and Jackie Ho. That was honestly great. I especially loved how you covered how to correctly do OKRs. They're done really, really wrong in a lot of projects, and they quickly go off the rails. So that was great. I really enjoyed that. Please click on the link that should be in the Talk Slack channel to ask questions and continue the discussion. And I encourage you to take advantage of this. I mean, this is a cool thing. Go ask questions and continue the conversation.